Carl, we just finished the first video on probates, the law, helping you understand how that all happens and how it's governed by the law and the administration of that process, because when someone dies, the estate is theirs and it doesn't just immediately transferred to the heirs. It has to go through that probate process so that the courts can make sure any outstanding bills, any creditors have been paid. So that's the pecking order. First, the creditors have to be paid. That's part of the estate. The lawyers and the judges, all that court process, there's costs involved there. That has to be paid. And then what's left over is what you receive as an inheritance. So that's why the law dictates that it has to go through a probate process to make sure all the creditors and outstanding debts are paid first. So that's that process. Now, the next step in your progression is to find out what you can afford for your housing, because now you're moving on to a new phase of life, and we're going to use a budget. That's a tool that we can use to compare income and expenses and determine what you can afford. And that is our next step. So we're diving into that right now, okay? The realities of mortality. Carl, I want to take a minute to talk about the big picture. During our mortal lives, we pass through several phases. Whether we like it or not, we will experience all of these phases if we live long enough. Happy are they who understand and take full advantage of each phase of life as it comes along. We come into this world with nothing, and we leave with nothing. The stuff we collect while we're here on the earth stays on the earth. We do not take it with us. Sometimes there are additional individualized changes that can occur in our lives. You have just experienced an economic change in your life. You are now in a new economic phase that is different than the past, and now you must adapt and change in order to continue your earthly progression and find joy in the journey. The first stage of earth life is birth and early childhood. We're completely dependent on our parents. Then we begin growing up into our teenage years, and we pursue our education all the way into college. And then we enter that plateau period of adulthood where we start our careers and we raise our families. And then all the kids leave home. And then we enter the phase of grandparenthood. And our focus starts changing and we start moving into retirement. And then at the end of life, if we live long enough, we get old, our health starts declining, and eventually we die. And your mother is ahead of you on this progression, and she has entered into heaven. She went through that gate of death. So where are you in this cycle? At this point, you're still in that plateau, just maybe over the hill, heading down into the final half of your life. I'm ahead of you. I'm into the grandparent phase. And so right now, you can see that we go through these phases. Well, I'm going to show you here in a minute the economic phase that you've gone through. This is just addressing the aging and the stages of life that we go through, but sometimes we go through economic cycles. So let's take a look at that. While we're living with our parents, they provide for all our needs: food, clothing, shelter, and recreation. It's often a surprise when kids go off to college for the first time and they discover that the refrigerator is empty. During our growing up years, food just magically appeared in the pantry and the refrigerator. We didn't have to think about who was paying for it or how much effort our mother expended to shop sales, to compare prices, and save money. My wife spends time each week clipping grocery coupons out of the newspaper. She saves hundreds of dollars by wisely using coupons every time she goes to the grocery store. When your mother passed away, it changed your economic life forever. You were living in a 3-income household. Your mother had her income and Social Security check. Kirsten had her Social Security check, and you had your Social Security check. That's 3 incomes in one household. For the first 50 years of your life, you were living free and easy. Your angel mother took care of everything. Now that she's gone to heaven, you are on your own. It's up to you to learn how to fend for yourself. The principles of self-reliance are part of the Lord's plan for us. He wants us to work and learn for ourselves how to manage our resources. We need to be wise stewards and willing to develop our talents. The church makes the educational resources you need readily available to us for free. It's up to us to engage, participate, learn, and apply the self-reliance principles. The first and most important principle is that our expenses must not exceed our income. Hint: credit cards are not income. They are debt. More on that subject in a minute. Carl, do you see how your household income has changed? And do you see how that change has put you in a new and very different economic phase of your life? You are used to living in a 3-income family. Now you will be living by yourself in a 1-income household. That shift in your financial picture necessitates some radical reductions to your expenses, because you cannot survive if your expenses exceed your income. So Carl, we are going to use a budget as a tool to determine how much you can afford to spend on housing. First, we are going to create a simple, typical household budget to determine how much income you have to work with. Then we are going to explore 4 different housing options to see which one best fits your budget. So step 1 is for you to fill in the missing information on the expenses side of this worksheet. So you need to go to your financial records, your Quicken records, and fill in these missing blanks, and then we'll continue.